Welcome, Blackhawk fans, to the 2010 Chicago Blackhawks Player Reunion Show. The invite went out to all the players on that 2010 Stanley Cup Championship team. Some have accepted, some are busy. So let's jump on the call and jump on the show and see who's joining in.
Edzo, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Fraz? How you doing?
Hanging in there. You?
Yeah, same stuff, man. Same stuff. Yeah. Where are you? West?
Yeah, Sylvan Lake, Alberta. What's that, Red Deer?
Yeah. All right.
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
What's going on?
What's up?
Oh, not much. Usual. You guys?
Not much has changed.
What's up, bro? Ladder? What's going on?
What's up, Edzo? How you doing, man?
Come on,
man.
Enzo.
Oh, good.
Good dog.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How you doing, man?
Plugging away,
Oh, I hear you, Soup.
plugging away, trying to become a better golfer. Yeah. Brow, where are you?
I just got back to Calgary 2 days ago.
So how did that work from the States? Now you got to quarantine, or technically?
Yeah, 2 weeks. I already got called the very first morning. They were like, "Are you at home?" and wanted to know my whole plan and how I was going to get groceries and everything. So it's just been I
Really?
don't know. Yeah, and they're pretty serious about it. So
Really?
Yeah.
What's up, Soupy, Steger? How you guys doing? All right?
Good. Eddie, you? How are you
Yeah,
doing?
all good. Yeah, good. All good, man. All good.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
You haven't. You've never traveled so little in your life.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? I'm dying. I'm dying for my miles.
What's up, boys?
Yo,
Hi, David.
Pecan Bulls.
yo, what's up?
Hey,
up, boss?
guys.
Soupy, Canner?
Kofi. Oh,
What's up, Edzo?
What's up, Canner?
got to get the old championship jersey in the background, too, eh, Kofi?
Yeah. Might as well. What's up, guys?
No. What's up, Shooter?
What's up? Welcome. Where you been hiding, Big Buff?
How'd you get Buff to agree to this? Holy
Oh.
Buff's got to hit the unmute button. We can't hear him. Hit your unmute. Tell Buff to hit his unmute. His video. There you go.
Well, guys.
We got you, Buff.
There we go.
Boom. What's up, boys? What up?
The big boy.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Are you still in the peg?
What's that?
Still in the peg?
Oh, hell yeah. Just got nice yesterday.
Oh, Dunksy boy.
Dunksy boy.
Hey, you doing
What's up, boss?
Yeah, whatever.
Jigsaw.
Biscuit, are you going to shave that?
No. We'll let it roll. What's up, fellas?
Jiggy.
What's up, Jiggy?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
That was
Kevin
good.
Estrada.
Kevin.
How you doing, Jiggy?
When it comes to anything technological, you know what I'm dealing with, boys.
Hey, how the hell do you find everybody?
The top right corner. There's should be able to pick different screen options.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I found it. Nice.
Haas, how's the golf course?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
But
Can't
this is
complain. Playing quite a bit.
gallery view.
Isn't there tennis courts there too?
Tickmaster. Browsing without teeth.
Yeah, I know. Did so well, I lost them. I have no idea where they are, and I can't go get more right now. So Why bother?
Boss, does your golf club have tennis courts too?
Yeah, we got a couple. What are you, tennis player now?
No, I was gonna come golf at your place, but I didn't go back.
You're more than welcome. Big Papa. What are you doing, buddy?
No, I'm just sitting in Winnipeg. Beautiful here.
Still snowing there?
Almost. I got some nice weather here.
There you go, Toes.
What's up, boys?
Hi, Johnny.
And on time.
What's up, JT?
You know I'm late if Duncan's on here before I am.
Exactly. Go.
My apologies, fellas.
What's up, Steve,
Yeah.
Johnny,
Here
John,
at.
Kopi, Haas, Sharpie?
Go.
How you guys doing, all right?
It's all
Good, Enzo.
Well, guys, it's certainly great to see all of you. Hopefully you all are safe and healthy, and what a great opportunity to reminisce about what happened and what you guys accomplished some 10 years ago. We could start in a lot of different directions, I know that, but we could be here for days, but we don't have that much time. So we're going to jump right into the start of the playoffs, and we're going to run a little bit of a video clip here, and hopefully you guys are all able to see it. Round one against the Nashville Predators. Everybody remembers that Game 5. We're going to roll the clip and see what the thoughts were and are of what took place late in Game 5 against the Nashville Predators in Round 1 of the 2010 Stanley Cup playoffs.
Predators leading 4-3, and this could put the Hawks in a very bad position right now.
He's not a dirty player. He was just trying to make sure that the defenseman couldn't clear the puck. And as it turns out, it was a tough hit. You know, so then you take a 5-minute penalty, so you're thinking, wow, this is it. I mean, we're never going to score a goal down a man late in a playoff game like that. And it was obviously a critical Game 5 when the series is tied.
4 against 4 for 5 minutes. No shootout now. You play as long as you need to decide the winner.
You can only imagine what was going on in Marian Hossa's mind. That was killing him.
I just signed a long-term deal to join the Blackhawks that year, and it was my first playoffs with the Blackhawks, and I said, like, wow, this is not good. I was sitting in the penalty box, sweating bullets.
Sopo now drops it to Chalmerson on the left half boards. Hawks come to full strength. Hossa's out of the box. Chalmerson put it in behind the net to Bolin. Now Sopo right point, hammers a shot. Here's Hossa, the rebound. Scored! Hawks win! Hawks win! Marian Hossa's first Blackhawk playoff goal! It's a game winner in overtime! Hawks beat the Predators 5-4!
Hey, Haas, I got to ask you. We got to start with you. You're the guy that took the penalty there late in that game. Do you think it still was a penalty 10 years later?
I think it was. It was. Obviously, you know, he lost a little bit of balance. I went to penalty box. 5 minutes at that time was too long for me, and obviously I didn't feel good about it. But you know, guys did an excellent job. Killed the penalty. Obviously, Kaner scored a huge goal, and I was still sweating bullets in the penalty box, even though when the game was tied. After overtime, I still went to the penalty box, and I was hoping guys still kill the penalty, and they did an excellent job.
Hey, Ladder, Brow, anybody? What was the feeling on the bench when you guys became shorthanded in that situation? Let's remind everybody the series was tied up at 2, and the Predators had a 1-goal lead going on a power play late in that Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the goal Kaner scored to tie up late. I think we were just happy to get to overtime. So it was almost icing on the cake, and I think we knew we had a shot at that point to pull that penalty off. We ride that momentum into winning that game. It was obviously a huge game.
Yeah, with that penalty kill going into it, Q called Kaner's number to go out and kill a penalty, and it's probably his first and last ever kill, and 1-for-1 with the goal. So, I mean, you know, great place. You guys did a great job battling to get there, and then icing on the cake that Haas was able to finish the game off.
Kaner, you want to defend yourself there? Is that true? Is that the last time you killed a penalty or what? You got to hit on mute, Kaner.
My bad. I think that was my my only shorthanded goal in my career, so it was worth it. It came at a good time, and obviously that whole play, Nashville had possession. Erat threw it in front of the net, and Johnny lugged it up the ice. I think he gave it to Steve. Steve took a shot. I think if I remember correctly, Dunks kind of hit the crossbar off a tip. And then it came around. I think all five of us touched the puck again. Sharpie, Steve, Dunks, Taser, myself, just putting it in the net. So, yeah, great feeling. The celebration was kind of wild. Even though we tied up the game, it kind of felt like we won a game there with that type of celebration. But, the crowd was going nuts. And like everyone said, it was kind of unexpected that we would tie it up. So it was a great feeling, and got to overtime. And obviously Haas coming out of the box wrote a great story.
Open it up to anybody. Do you guys look at that as a defining moment? Teams that have success, obviously, like you guys do, over the course of the regular season, things happen, but you get to a stage, and now anybody look back 10 years later and go, wow, what the hell might not have happened if Kaner wasn't able to tie it up late, and then Haas comes out of the penalty box and ties it. Can you look at that as a defining moment 10 years later?
I think Kaner's goal, and then obviously the OT winner, that was the game that got us going. If we weren't playing at the top of our game the first 4 games. I think we came out of there 0-2 in Nashville, down 2-0. Can't remember for sure, but once we hit that, it was churning, full steam ahead from there. 2 big goals, confidence, guys are rolling.
Hey, Haas, when you were sitting in that penalty box, did you think that you might get an opportunity to jump right on the ice and have a backdoor goal like that and be your first Blackhawk? What a way to have your first career Blackhawk playoff goal.
Well, obviously, when I was jumping from the penalty box, I was first looking at the bench. I was going straight to the bench, but Brent Sopel took the puck and was wheeling and dealing, and Dave Bolland did excellent job, passing the puck to him, and he was shooting it. Puck just luckily came to me, and I had half open net to put it in. And I think, just the lucky moment, and just great feeling after being sitting in a penalty box for 5 minutes. So definitely that game get us going, and I think the confidence went higher each game after that.
Hey, Siebes, I want to ask you, is there any one guy that maybe stood out that you remember in that particular series? I know we're talking a lot about Game 5 against Nashville, but is there any one guy or one set of your team that maybe you look at and go, maybe didn't get the, the accolades, so to speak, when you guys were able to win that first round?
I don't know if there's one guy. I think everybody did a good job of playing their role and doing a huge job. I mean,
brutal against Nashville.
He was playing defense. But I mean, like a guy that stands out was Soaps. I think the guy was black and blue after every game. Every game he had 2 or 3 more spots pop up. He was taking Weber one-timers from about 6 feet away. I thought he did a huge job of helping that out. I don't think they scored a playoff power play goal against us. So, but like I said, I think everybody played a huge part in that and did a good job of getting us to the next round.
Hey, Johnny, after you guys won that Game 5, was it one of those feelings inside the locker room? Just take us in there that, like, we're not going to be denied after having the incredible finish to that game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I can't speak for all the other guys, but I think as Fraz said, we were rolling. Of course, I think we were feeling confident after that Game 5. Right. We were feeling pretty confident we're going to find a way to close out the series, but I don't know. I think when you're in the moment, you just kind of concentrate on the next game. I think when you look back, you win the Stanley Cup, you look back in hindsight, you can kind of pinpoint those those moments that you kind of came close to either being knocked out or being against the ropes. And I think we can all look at Game 5 as a pretty make or break moment for us. But I think at the time we were just kind of concentrating on closing out the series after that. We were feeling pretty confident.
Now, the rivalry with the Vancouver Canucks became obviously as good as we saw in the National Hockey League over the course of the last 15, 20 years. I want to open this up to Big Buff and Duncan Keith. You guys, if you guys want to just take us back, what do you remember about that series and just the nastiness between you guys and the Vancouver Canucks? Dunk, why don't you start, and then we'll go to Buff.
Well, just like you said, you know, it was a pretty nasty series. I think looking back on those Vancouver series that we did have, and in particular the one in 2010, I think you got to give Vancouver a lot of credit too. They were a good team, and I think they showed that the next year going into the finals. So, you know, as much as we didn't like playing those guys, and we took a lot of satisfaction in beating them, and especially in their own building. You know, I still think that part of that satisfaction was knowing that they were a good team, and it was a hard series. They had a lot of players that got under our skin, and we got under their skin. But, you know, what I remember most was just being a tough series, you know, 6 games, but, you know, both teams going at it, and good players on both sides, and I think we had better players on our side.
What are your thoughts, Buff? What do you remember about that series against Vancouver? You had a few important goals, if I remember correctly, back in 2010 in that series against the Canucks.
Yeah, I mean, like Dunk said, we came out – I thought we, you know, coming into that series that we were going to be all right. I think the boys kind of knew that we were, you know, going to have fun, and we were going to, you know, continue playing good hockey, and just, you know, doing the right things. And the team, the boys just, you know, once we got there, everyone was on the same page, and it was just, you know, fun to be a part of. And the goals that I didn't have to play with Duncan anymore on defense. That was a nice thing. I moved up the forward and started just, you know, sitting in front of the net, made it a lot easier.
Hey, Soupy, I want to ask you that having that arsenal, so to speak, with that big body, a Big Buff up front. How do you think that was able to change the dynamic of your team to have that presence of a guy like Big Buff up front playing forward?
Well, I think it was just the whole presence of him was so intimidating for defensemen, for goaltending. We saw it through the whole playoffs. So. I don't want to jump ahead, but I still remember even the San Jose goal where Nabokov was standing around and looking for a puck, and it was already in the back of the net, and there was only one reason why it was in the net, because he couldn't see anything. You know, the hits. It was honestly, it was one of the probably most dominating performances that you could honestly say that you've seen in a playoff series, and I give a lot of credit to Buff because he played so many different roles for our team. And I don't know. I wouldn't want to be hit by him. It's not fun. I've had that before, but he's quite the presence for a goaltender, and I think he's still giving Bobby Lou some nightmares right now. I definitely know that from playing with Bobby Lou in Florida. So,
hey, Sharpie, what do you remember specifically about that series against Vancouver from your vantage point?
I remember a lot, but just going back to the Nashville series real quick, one of the reasons why I think it kind of turned around at one point, Soupy came back from injury. A lot of people don't remember that. Buff was playing defense. He can play defense. We know that. But going forward now to the Vancouver series, Soupy's back playing on the D. Buff's up front, and he makes a menace of the front of the net. It seemed like he really came to life that series as the villain in Vancouver. I think he thrived under that pressure. We know Buff here on this call. He keeps to himself and he lays low, but in that moment, in those big playoff games when the whole Vancouver Canucks team was focused in on him and the media was all over him, it just seemed like he got better and better in those big moments. But, you know, Vancouver was a team for us that over the years probably taught our guys a lot about winning in the playoffs. Those 3 series we had in a row, 2009, 10, and 11, were as an emotional and aggressive series that you can get in. There's lots of trash talking going back and forth, and we were a young group in Chicago. We learned how to win. We learned how to handle ourselves in those situations. And here we are again in 2010 against a tough team like Vancouver in round 2.
Hey, Kopi and Bix and Boley, I want to ask you guys, with the depth on your team, I mean, obviously, incredible offensive ability, up and down the lineup, but the roles that you guys played in a series like Vancouver, I thought that ended up being the difference. I thought you guys were able to play any way you wanted. Kopi, if you guys want to play a skill game, you could win 8-7 if you wanted. If you wanted to play a hard-nosed game, you guys were able to do that. What's that feeling like in a dressing room when you guys know you can play any way that the game dictates?
Well, I think that series that showed us that we can play with anybody, and especially from the series with Nashville, that point you guys were talking about when the host went to the penalty box. I think that was, when you look back at the whole playoffs, I think that's the whole turning point when you said, okay, we can win the whole thing. And pretty much everybody in the room believed and started to believe that we can win the whole Stanley Cup. So and especially during the season, when you look, we played Vancouver, I don't know, 4 times, and it was always a tough game. Lots of scraps, lots of fighting. We knew it's going to be a tough series, and after that series we said it's everything is impossible.
Hey, Bix, what do you remember about that series and your team's ability to be able to go ahead and punch people in the mouth, or go ahead and skate around them and beat them that way as well?
Yeah, obviously I was a part of it in a way. But just the experience, to be a part of the Nashville series, and then we lost the first game, and then I shortly got exited out of the first game in Vancouver, and then watching the run they went on was pretty fun. I've had some interviews the last couple of the Cup teams, and I have to say, the juice. Like, if you put that team against anybody in any league in any generation, I think that we would do pretty well. I was just happy to experience it and basically get the Mario Kart going for everybody, because that was my my job. I know Soupy was on me most of the time to make sure to don't even put my luggage in my room. You better go up to the room to set up the Mario Kart. So it was a fun experience, and I was pretty stoked to be there.
Hey, Boley, you pretty much went head-to-head with the Twins. I just want to get your recollection of going up against the Twins and being in their grill night in and night out.
Yeah, it was always fun. I knew I had to go up against the City Twins there, and it was always one or the other. But it was always something that I relished, and we had some fun with it, toying with them and picking on them most of the time. But we always got up for those games. We hated Vancouver. I think when you look back at those games, we got up for those Vancouver games more maybe than we got up for any other game. But just playing against those two and shutting them down and just being on them all night was always fun and getting on the nerves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike McCarthy from Libertyville. My wife is Angie, and she's a 6th grade teacher and has been doing an awesome job doing virtual teaching, and has really cared a lot about her students. Very animated, teaching them about science. Last week, she surprised 15 of her students I drove her around, and she went door to door, social distancing, of course, and gave each of her kids a donut and a handwritten note and tell them how proud she was of them. And I'm really proud of her for her commitment to the kids during this time. One of our best memories as Blackhawks season ticket holders was 2010 when we went to Philadelphia. We drove that same day, ended up sitting 5th row from the ice when Patrick Kane scored his winning goal. It was one of the best experiences we've ever had. We were able to share that together. And like everybody else, we weren't sure that the goal went in, and we weren't going to celebrate until they announced it inside the stadium. There was no way we were taking a chance with all those Philly fans around. But it was just an amazing memory, and to see them skate towards us with the Stanley Cup was absolutely incredible.
Well, guys, we're going to fast forward to Game 6 when you guys were in overtime against the Philadelphia Flyers, and we'll have a little video flashback, and then we'll chat a little bit about Game 6 against the Flyers in the Stanley Cup Final.
We didn't know what to do. I mean, we saw the players celebrating. We didn't have a great vantage point up in the press box, and I remember looking at one another. There was a lot of our staff members. We didn't know whether we should try to run down to the ice. Was it a goal? Was it not a goal?
The one thing for us, as the visiting radio, our perspective was way down inside the Philadelphia end zone because the TV rights holders had all the good booths in the building in Philadelphia. And when the puck went in, John was looking to where the puck was, as was all the other broadcasters, as were the players on the ice. But because I was able to watch the play, I saw the puck go in, and I started yelling, "It's in, it's in."
Juking his way to the right, lower left corner, shoots, he scores! Oh no, that's turned wide by Leighton. Loose puck in the crease, and now it's in the net. They score! It's in! They score! It's in! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup!
All right, guys, I'll open it up to whoever wants to hit the unmute button on the social device there. And but I'll first start with Kaner. Kaner, you looked like you knew that it went in right away. And what kind of feeling was that 10 years later?
Well, I mean, it's an amazing moment for the Blackhawks franchise and obviously our team. I think. Looking back on that play, I think Sharpie is still pissed I didn't pass it to him in the slot because he was open. But we got the win and we won the Stanley Cup, so that was all that mattered. But even to this day, I'll still have some bad dreams where that puck's not in the net, and I'll be throwing my equipment all over the ice and running up and down the ice, and the puck's not in. So just happy it went in. I was pretty sure at the moment. Obviously, the celebration was kind of weird where. I was running to the other end of the ice. Some guys knew it was in. I think Sharpie knew it was in. Laddie was chasing me as well. Soupy. And then guys coming off the bench didn't really know how to react. So a lot of them didn't know whether to celebrate or waiting for confirmation on the goal. So just watching that game and seeing the whole celebration, how it was kind of one celebration with Ante. And then once there was a confirmation of the goal, it was like a whole nother celebration with the whole team. So pretty cool the way it worked out, though.
A little bit of delayed reaction. Guys on the bench, what was the chatter on the bench? Anybody, go ahead, jump in.
Well, I wasn't on the bench. I was riding pine as the 13th forward in the dressing room. But stupid story, but it was me, Burish, and Bick, and we put our gear on, and the game went into Philly tied it late in the third, and we had our gear on already. We're sitting here being like, oh, my God, we just jinxed it. Now we're hiding in the little closet massage room that we had there so the guys wouldn't see us. So then we're like, hey, now we better win because I can't sit here with take all my equipment off and feel like a complete donkey. So we were watching on the little monitor, and then we run out to the bench, and then we stopped on the bench because we didn't know if it was in either. So we didn't want to run on the ice, celebrate, and have to pick up our crap and then go back to the dressing room like the 13th. Which we were. So I'm just happy it was in. I'm with you, Kaner. I would have had nightmares myself if it didn't go in, and we would have had to do it all over again.
Soupy, did you know it was in?
No clue. I kept looking in the netting above the glass. I thought it probably hit goalie stick and went up into the netting. But I always say this. I say, shame on all of us for not believing in a Hall of Famer scoring a goal with Kaner there and not believing that when he put his hands up that it went in. But I'm glad I kept my gear on because I was the same way as Braz. I didn't want to be the one picking my gear up and playing more hockey and look like that. So, but there was a few guys, I think that there's obviously guys, you can see guys' reaction on the bench. I think it was Laddie's reaction was right away. He knew it. Sharpie knew it. And I'm sure there's a few else, but even looking at the bench and trying to the coaches are looking at the monitors on the bench to see if it is a goal, and we're all kind of wondering, do we celebrate? We're still looking at the coaches to get kind of confirmation once they start jumping up and down. So definitely a crazy experience to go through, but I'm glad we weren't picking up our gear.
Yeah. Hey, Jordan Hendry, I want to ask you, what was that feeling like when you knew your team had accomplished something that you guys had started off from day one to accomplish? And yeah, it might have been a delayed reaction, so to speak, but you were able to know that you were a Stanley Cup champion.
Hey guys, nice to see everybody here. Haven't seen a lot of you guys in a long time, but it's nice to catch up. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was fun to come out of the locker room with a few other guys, and I mean, looking back at the videos, Kaner, I think, and the goalie was the only two in the building that knew the puck went in. So, I mean, it was like disbelief that going on the ice, we're like, I'm gonna have to get back off the ice. What just happened? But,
hey, Haas, I got to ask you. You went to, which is really amazing if people might not know, that you went to back Stanley Cup finals, and you were finally on the right end for you in your Hall of Fame career. What was that like for you to realize that it had finally happened after the last couple of years of, being on the wrong side in a Stanley Cup final?
Well, I think we can call the most bizarre goal in OT here, because it was crazy scoring OT winner like that. And I saw Kaner and a couple of guys going crazy, and we jumped over the bench, and we didn't know if to go celebrate. And I think I went straight to the referee. I want to make sure, after being 3 times in the finals, if the puck was in. So after they told me the puck was in, I started celebrating with the boys, and I got monkey off my back after, being a 3rd time in a final. So definitely one of my favorites, if not the favorite goal in my career, to see the teammates score, and one of the hugest. So thanks, Kaner, again.
Hey, Dunk, if I could ask you, people or athletes, when they win, everybody's trying to win. And then when you finally do, is there something that you realize once you're able to get to the top of the mountain that you didn't realize prior to that, because of the long journey and, the sacrifice that goes in, the dedication of finally winning? Like, what did you learn about winning that maybe you didn't know prior to being able to win one of you didn't know, but another 2 cups after that first one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think when you're trying to win, everything is new to you, and all the experiences you're going through, you're living at that moment and with your teammates, and you deal with those emotions as best as you can, whether that's winning a game in the playoffs or losing a game in a series. You kind of ride that roller coaster, and when it's all said and done and you're finally on top and you're able to celebrate with your teammates, I think that's kind of the moment where you just appreciate, I guess, everything that it took to get there and what you guys had to do, and you look back and more than anything appreciate the journey, knowing that, like guys have mentioned on here, Taser mentioning earlier about those times where you have a series where you might be kind of on the ropes, or like in the Nashville series, or there's times in a game where are we gonna be able to pull it out, and there's maybe a little bit of self-doubt that kind of creeps in, and you seem to find a way to rally back throughout the game or a series. And I don't know, that for me was kind of the thing that I kind of looked at most about winning, is getting that experience, knowing that not everything is going to be smooth sailing. Everybody looks at a championship team like, oh, they're the best, but there's a lot of tough times that go into winning.
All right, guys, we're going to move on. And this segment we're going to call is Pick on a Teammate segment. We got 5 minutes for everything, so be short and concise. It's open to everybody. I'm going to start with the captain, and then we'll work our way through. So be quick, If you got a good story, take as much time as you want. We're going to edit it. But Johnny, we're going to start out. Who was the worst roommate in 2010? If you indeed had a roommate in 2010.
Well, I mean, I only had one roommate. His name was Patrick Kane. There was some good and some bad, some ugly. I don't know where to start. Most of the time we're supposed to be on the same team, especially when we had Burish and Sharp putting leaners and ordering food to our room all the time. And you thought that would have brought us together, create a bond there, and us versus them type mentality. But the two of us kind of would go after each other and fight over the remote, bicker about little things. He always wanted to watch basketball. I wanted to watch other things, but all in all, it was pretty good.
Sharpie, who's the worst roommate you think on that team? Maybe you didn't stay with him, but what's the talk around the team back then? Who was the worst roommate for whatever reason?
It's got to be Seabrook, hands down, no questions asked. I was roommates with Siebes after Burr left the following season, and it lasted one road trip. I think we went to Buffalo, and besides like setting his alarm every 8 minutes for an hour to wake up in the morning, that was the thing that bothered me. Never flushing the toilet, that was another one that I couldn't really live with. I didn't last very long with Siebes, but the roommates, that's interesting to think about. We had roommates back in 2010. A couple guys had their own room, and I kind of missed that feeling. Like Bursch and I got to know each other really well. We got to hang out with different sets of roommates throughout the team, and that's something that I miss about playing back in the day. It was just hanging out in the hotel with the group of guys.
Hey, Siebes, the floor is yours, man. You want to defend yourself, or do you want to go ahead and throw a couple of darts back towards the sharpshooter?
Oh, yeah, I think Sharpie was the one that didn't flush the toilet. But, I was definitely an alarm guy, have a hard time waking up in the morning. I remember rooming with Boley, and I never could understand how he could get up. We'd start watching a movie about 11 o'clock or 10:30 or something like that. He'd fall asleep about 10 minutes in, and he'd get up about an hour later. He'd have an orange juice or a sugary drink, have a Snickers bar, lay back down. 10 minutes later, he'd be back asleep again. I mean, if I have a Snickers bar or something like that, I'd be up again till 3 a.m. But he was a special guy, and like Sharpie said, it's something to think back about. We don't have roommates anymore, but back in 2010, I think that was the last year I had a roommate, and it was fun.
All right, last call on worst roommate. Anybody jump in? Feel free. Take a shot. You got one last opportunity. Take a shot at worst roommate. Fraz, looks like you're anxious to hit the button. Go ahead.
He's not on the call, so he can't defend himself. Didn't Soaps blare Nickelback all day long on like a Bose speaker, and you were coming down the hallways because he wouldn't nap, and he would just be listening to Nickelback. And
he was at the mall shopping half the time, wasn't he?
Drinking 75 Red Bulls.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna move on. Steger, this is for you, man. Best prank pulled in 2010. Do you remember? Anything come to mind? Best prank pulled in 2010. What sticks out? Anything?
Oh, I don't know. I just remember Buff used to with me a lot. I'd be going out for practice or something, and then all of a sudden my tape wouldn't be on my blade. Sticks cut, just little things. And then finally, this isn't with a prank story, but I finally ran his show one practice. We were doing breakaways, and I took his one extra stick and I threw it in the stands. And then he broke his other stick at practice, and he was all pissed off because he had a bad practice. And then he was coming after me the rest of practice. And then we were in a huddle. And he slapped the puck at me and hit me right in the chest. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but he fired this puck at me. And it was kind of a prank, but yeah, that was kind of the guy that was me and him would go back and forth about it. But Sharpie and Burr would always go with Taser and Kaner. They'd mess with them. But yeah, that was what I remember. I remember I had a dent in my chest for like 2 years.
Hey, Buff, what do you recall? You remember chasing Steger around or what?
Yeah, I actually do remember that. That was funny. I believe we got yelled at. I think we were shooting pucks at each other like all practice and at the feet and everything. And finally one got away on us. And, yeah, it ended up high, like, right in the huddle too. And, yeah, we got yelled at pretty good. Yeah.
Who yelled at you, Buff? Who was yelling?
I think Q yelled at us. I'm not sure. I don't remember who yelled, but it was pretty funny. I remember that.
You used Burish's stick too. It was Burish's stick you were using the rest of practice, and you couldn't catch the pass or anything because it was a little short and everything. Yeah, yeah. Q gave a.
Hey, Sharpie, I hear through the grapevine and in hearing things back 10 years. Look, I can't remember anything yesterday, let alone what the hell happened 10 years ago. You guys can laugh at me because I'm the oldest guy on this call, but it's going to happen to you too. So be careful. Father Time is undefeated. Sharpie, give me something that you and Burr maybe pulled back in 2010, and hopefully everybody knows that this happened. You know that it was you guys.
Oh man, I don't know. Those prank videos kind of blew up a little bit back in 2010. Blackhawks TV was looking for content from players to kind of show our personalities, and they gave us a handheld recorder and told us to go mess around a little bit, and the fans loved it. So I don't know if we were really pulling pranks a whole lot other than that one road trip. We'd always mess with each other, but I think everybody on this call would do that. But I thought those videos were great, whether it was that prank one we're talking about, or I remember times when Soupy and Versteeg were dressed up in what was like full-blown speed skating outfits, the Canada versus U.S. Olympics kind of thing that we did with Kane and Taves eating popsicles. I thought that was a great way for the Hawks to kind of show this group of young guys' personalities, connect with the fan base. And I mean, it was all great back then in 2010. I think of the fans, United Center was rocking, the media coverage was all positive. You know, very little negativity. We're all a bunch of kids at the same point in our lives and career, just having fun. And, you know, it just seemed like a great time, 2010.
Kopi, who was the funniest guy on that team in 2010? Funniest guy.
Good talk, Bex.
Funniest guy. I don't know. I must say the guy who was sitting right next to me, the whole locker room, you know, it was Buff. Because the one thing I remember, you know, at the time I had my son had a 6-year-old, and after a game we came to the dressing room, and you know, he's drinking a Red Bull. He's like, "Where'd you get that?" He's like, "Buff gave it to me." You know, so it was like.
All right, we're going to move on.
Enzo, I got one here.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it was on the plane, and I remember Jelly was sleeping. Steger took a pack of pepper and poured it up his nose. So he woke up sneezing, and Jelly turned around and ripped Steger's suit right off him on the plane.
Well, he had this like little mustache. And yeah, I poured the pepper, and he was like sneezing, and then I had to wear sweatpants the rest of the trip. We were headed to Vancouver.
All right, we're gonna move on, guys. All right, Ladder, I gotta ask you, who had the worst pregame pump-up music?
Oh, it had to be Soaps probably. Yeah. Soaps had a pretty unique routine where he would like bend over in his stall and kind of like whip his hair back and forth. So that was pretty unique. Yeah, I'd probably say Soaps. So Soaps was into like the heavy metal stuff.
Hey, Boley, you recall anybody with the pump-up music? Was there any? I guess take us inside. I just know in my day there were certain guys that could touch the music. Now you guys, you know, everybody has the headsets on and play their own music. But you know, take us inside. And what was that like inside that locker room when it came to music?
Yeah, I think I hit it up once in a while. I knew whenever we were at the Pony or we were out, I'd always late nights. I'd always throw a few tunes on. But I think Laddie's right. I think Soaps always had a weird routine. He'd chug about 15 Pepsis and a few Red Bulls, and he'd whip his hair back. But yeah, I think a few guys would try and get in the music. So yeah.
All right, who had the weirdest pregame ritual? I don't want to. It looks like we're going to pile on Soaps here. It sounds like on every one of these. But is there anybody outside of Brent Sopel, Marian Hossa, who had some weird pregame rituals, whether it was in the locker room, at the pregame meal, on the bus? Is Is there anybody that maybe stands out to you in that?
I think everybody was pretty normal. I think just Salt was different. I can't remember. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's got to be Siebes, no?
Yeah, Siebes.
Siebes would have to tap everyone's knuckles, went out, and Soupy would go hide on him. Like Soupy would run to the bathroom and hide on him, and Siebes would be there for him before he went on the ice.
All right, I sat beside Soap, so it rubbed off on me a little bit.
Steve, you used to change music at every stoplight on the way to the rink. You changed the song.
And the seven Hershey Kisses you used to have.
Yep, that's true too.
Wasn't seven bottles of water too?
Anything else, boys? Anything else? You guys got anything else?
The night before had to have brownies and ice cream too. I remember that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was legit. Brownies and ice cream.
Fraz was his roommate, even if he didn't eat it.
Steve's would pay every time too.
But there was a dessert with peanuts in it, and I was rooming with Bully. I had to go eat it in the bathroom.
Yeah. I'm not allergic to peanuts anymore. I'm grew out of it.
Change your diet.
So my name is Maureen Mesta. I'm from Arlington Heights. I'm a front-end manager with Joel Osco, and they take care of the front end, the checkers, the baggers, and the service desk. One of the most amazing things that I thought was the community. People were sending in pizzas for us. They were sending in food. They were making us masks. And I just think that overall, regardless of what we were doing, the community was just terrific in supporting us because they knew that we were here and we were here so they could get their food. My most favorite moment was I've been a season ticket holder for 25 years since United Center opened, and shout out to Section 301. And we, I think my most favorite moment was when we had 2009, then we went into 2010 and we thought, boy, can they really do it? Can they do it? Is this the time we're going to win the Stanley Cup? And we started off the playoffs, and still to this day, one of my most favorite games is Game 5 against Nashville at home when Hossa had the major penalty and Kane scored with 6 seconds left. And who can forget Hossa coming out of the box and, I think it was Sopel to Hammer to Bolin to Sopel to Hossa, boom, overtime. And I think that was when I first knew that we had a real chance of getting our first Stanley Cup in however many years.
Well, nothing better than being a part of a Stanley Cup parade. And let's take a look back at the Stanley Cup memories in the championship parade of 2010.
I'm old enough to remember when the old hymn by the skeptics in Chicago, oh, well, there's only 18,000 hockey fans in the city, and they're all in the building at the same time on game night. Well, that first parade was through the roof, and I think there was more than 18,000 people.
Number 88, Patrick Kane! Chicago!
When you guys see that 10 years later, what are your thoughts about the celebration, both on the ice and obviously with the great Blackhawk fans and the parade and everything else that went with it? Kaner, let's start with you.
It was a lot of fun. I think for a lot of us, it was just unexpected that there'd be that many people, that would be that big of a party. And that many fans and people of Chicago were excited about us, winning a championship. So it was fun to celebrate with them, even after the parade, we were kind of taking the cup all around the city and visiting restaurants, bars, clubs, everything. So it was fun to share it with the city.
Hey, Brau, what do you remember about the parade just from the start of the day to the end of it? Because it was just, it was a mass of humanity riding through that parade.
Yeah, and I think coming in the morning, we had to take our team picture as well. And boys were rolling in, and Siebes had bought us some heart attacks from the Palace so we could get something in our stomach. And then, we had a couple beers and weren't quite sure what to think of it. And once we started leaving the United Center, there was, a few people here and there. And I remember it being so hot that day, and you're kind of, it was almost kind of miserable because you're hungover and hot. And then all of a sudden you started seeing just the masses of people. And it was an experience that made it even so much more special, because it was pretty unexpected. Because like they said, they were only expecting 500,000 and there ended up being way more people than that.
Siebes, what was that like with family and, riding in that float and celebrating with everybody that first time?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I'll start the Palace. We weren't paying for much that week after winning the Cup. So George at the Palace, we called him up. He brought some heart stoppers over so the boys could feel a little better in the morning after a couple days of boozing. But I remember just going down the road and seeing the people. I remember there was a guy rollerblading beside us, and then just the masses of people. I think all the side streets that went down, it was, 100, 200 feet deep of people just trying to catch a glimpse. And by the time we got up to the stage area there, I think we just saw a video of that. But the amount of people, it seemed like it was just crazy and just a fun time for all of us. We were, young and having fun and, having beers chucked at us. If you guys were slamming those, so it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. And like Kaner said, just that whole week to 10 days, 2 weeks was pretty incredible to see, what that cup can do when you bring it around the city and can share with the fans and have some fun.
Hey, Jordan, what do you remember most about that celebration?
I think just what everyone's already saying. Remember being hot. It's pretty cool having my dad out there with me. I remember people being on top of the bus stops, hanging from light poles. Every window in the buildings when we're downtown being filled with people, and I remember them throwing confetti out the windows, and fans trying to throw us beers up onto the bus, and they would throw them way too high, and they'd go over the bus, and you just like watch the beer land or hit someone on the other side that had no idea. Just stuff like that. It was pretty amazing.
Sharpie?
I kind of just remember the flight home after Philly. It was a late departure after a few hours in the locker room, and everybody kind of relaxed a little bit on the flight back. And as soon as we landed, there was just people everywhere, right from O'Hare. Guys had some fun that night at the Pony. I'm sure that's been talked about enough and well documented. But the parade was another eye opener. It was unexpected, as the guys are saying. Leaving the United Center, we didn't really know what was coming. And it just seemed like every street corner there was just crowds and fields of people as far as you could see. It kind of shows the passion of those fans back home in Chicago and how much that Stanley Cup run meant for us. Because for us, winning the Cup, you're in those hotels, you stay in the hotel even in Chicago sometimes on game day. You're kind of, that the city's rallying behind you and you feel the energy in Chicago. But until you get to that parade and you see everybody partying, it was certainly a memorable experience.
And then the great tradition that when you do get that opportunity to get your name on the cup, you get it for a day or two. And Haas, I got to ask you, what was that like for you to get the Stanley Cup and then to be able to celebrate and bring it home and achieve the ultimate in your Hall of Fame career?
Yeah, there was I remember the moment when Johnny gave me the cup after the game, and the first time when I touched it, he let it go. I remember the weight of the cup surprised me how heavy that thing was for the first couple seconds. And after that, I just took it around and I said, the hockey dream came true. So unforgettable feeling. And after that, just huge parties with our guys, great teammates, and I couldn't wait to bring the cup finally home, share with my parents, my family, and the fans in Slovakia. So just great memories, and you know, I think one of the toughest 5 days celebrating on the road in Chicago.
Hey, Soupy, when you were about to get the Stanley Cup on the ice, can you take us through, like, paint that picture of what that anticipation was like before you were actually going to put your hands on the cup for the first time?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to anticipate. You know, I think after you win the game, you kind of just feel like, wow, we just, you know, as Patrick was talking about, you're in such a bubble for those 2 months, and you know, you're unaware of anything. Everything's taken care of. You're eating at the rink all the time, or you're at home, and then, you know, you win, and it's just the relief that you have and the gratitude, and to do it with, you know, the 23 guys on the team is just spectacular. So don't fall when you get the cup. I think everybody's got that thought in their head at all times, and pretty nervous about that. But there's, you know, I think for everybody, there's been a lot of work that's gone into that throughout the season, but throughout your life and your family's life. I think you just kind of thinking about your whole entire life and your family and friends that have helped you get to there, and just kind of all comes back into that moment.
Hey, Dunk, was there any one guy that got the cup that maybe caught your attention? You know, that maybe you were like, when you saw that teammate skating around with the cup, was like, man, this is, you know, like, it really hit home for you on I don't want to say a personal level, but just, you know, happy for that one guy or two guys that maybe resonated with you that got an opportunity to skate with that cup?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty excited to see, you know, when I saw everybody, there were different reasons, you know, when I would see different guys hoist the cup. Certainly, you know, knowing Host had been to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years prior, you know, it was nice to see him win the cup. Finally, you know, on our side, on the Blackhawks, you know, and just lots of different personal reasons. You know, we played with, we were a young group of guys that all kind of came up together, you know, whether that was through the minors or just being young in the NHL together. So, you know, whether it was Siebes or Sharpie, you know, Taser, Kane or Buff, everybody here, you know, it was neat to see, you know, everybody hoist it for various reasons. I think if I could go back, it would be fun to sit back and take it in more, you know, in that regard. But obviously there's a lot going on, and as soon as you're done hoisting the cup, it's on to the next guy, and, you know, you're talking and shouting and celebrating with different things going on.
Hey, Ladder, real quick before we go to our closing discussion, I want to ask you, a lot of players in all sports talk about they wish there was a little bit more just of us time, you know, just the guys, just the trainers, just the coaches. How did you feel about that experience, that first time of being with the guys? Like, you know, do you wish you had a little bit more time right after to be able to just be kind of as one and having, you know, a lot of floaters inside and taking part in the celebration?
Yeah, I think that was a nice part of being on the road and winning in Philly. You know, we had that, like you said, you didn't have a bunch of kind of floaters hanging around. Most of it was just our immediate family that had flown in for the games, wives, girlfriends, and stuff like that. So, you know, really, and then we got the chance to have that plane ride back where it literally was just our group. So I think looking back, that's kind of a special time for all of us, just to have that time together, kind of sit, reflect on what we accomplished, and you know, probably a big part of our memories. And then we had a lot of time together the next week over in the party bus taking around the city. So a lot of great memories.
All right, guys, we got about 7 to 8 minutes left here, so we're going to get through this. But I want everybody's participation here in our closing discussion. David Bolland, I'm going to start with you. Looking back 10 years, as short as you can, a reason or two why you guys were so successful in 2010. Not because you just won, but just the reason why you think your team was so successful over the course of the journey.
I think just the depth. Our depth was unbelievable. You look from the top to the bottom. We had guys that could play all positions. We had great middle. We had great wingers. We had great D, and down to the goaltending with Antti. I think our depth was incredible.
Fraz?
Compete. I think we had grinders out compete, but our top players competed too. We had skill that played hard, and that's not always running guys through a building, but that's just hard on pucks and a will to win, top to bottom.
Hey, Buff, what do you think?
Other than Kaner, everyone worked hard. We were just such a tight group, so young, and we were all coming in together and just having fun. There wasn't one game I remember that we were scared and we were nervous about going into. We knew that we could come in and we could just play hockey and let our skill and whatever way you wanted to play, we could play. And that was the best part about playing on the team was we could play any which way, skill, rough, whatever, fast. But it was just fun to watch and be a part of.
Kaner?
Well, I just think I think a lot of different reasons. I mean, I think the guys make some good points, but it seemed like everyone kind of had their moment in the playoffs. I look at just the depth of our team, guys stepping up on different nights, whether it's, I know Brouwer was having some issues with his dad, and he comes back, he scores in Game 6 in Vancouver, and then he scores 2 goals in Game 1 against Philly. Boland scored so many big goals for us throughout that playoffs. Buff and Sharpie leading the team in goals. Obviously Dunks and Siebes and Soupy and Soaps and those guys on the back end just kind of nailing down the fort for us. Everyone just had contributions. Everyone had their night. Versteeg, like big goals in the finals, big goals against Vancouver. And just a privilege to play with everyone. Such a great team, and definitely miss everyone. Definitely miss playing with everyone. It was a lot of fun that year. I think Buff made the point where we had a lot of fun as a group. It was never really forced for us to hang out with each other. We just always wanted to, whether I was in Chicago or on the road at the rink, always having a lot of fun. So that was one of my most fun years for me.
Hey, Bix, you being a role player on that team and not playing a lot, I got to ask you from a so-called outside observation, was there something that you looked at and was able to take, a couple of years later and become a huge part of a team that won the Stanley Cup? Is there anything that you observed from being one of those role players? Bix, hit the unmute button, Bix.
There we go. Unmute.
There you go. All right.
Just the will, what it takes to win. I think I was called up 19 times. I played 19 games. I was up and down that I-90 about, whatever times. But just to see the will and what it takes to be a championship team, helped me moving my career forward and playoffs and regular season and anything like that. It was an awesome experience to be a part. I've been there for Black Aces, and you don't get to see the guys, but to be around the guys and joke around and be in the locker room and obviously celebrate with them was an awesome moment for me to learn and to, use it in the upcoming years.
Hey, Kopi, what advice would you give, young hockey players, aspiring hockey players that are looking to take that next step and to become a champion, regardless of what league it is? Obviously, we're talking about the Stanley Cup, but if you had a chance for young hockey players, look, everybody wants to be Marian Hossa and Patrick Kane and Duncan Keith and be the go-to guys, but you need role players on a team, right? You need pieces to the puzzle, and everybody has to be able to accept that. Like, what kind of advice would you give young aspiring hockey players?
Well, I think, like we were saying in the playoffs and in the finals, that I remember before the Game 6, looking during over the locker room, everybody's beaten up, sprained MCLs, and everybody had some injury. And when I said you know, if you want to win something that you never won before, you know, you have to do something that you never done before. So, you know, it's sometimes it's big sacrifice, you know, but it's worth it. So
Sharpie, did you get any did you get it? Did you talk to anybody during that run, Sharpie, that maybe said something to you that made an impact on you, or and maybe now down 10 years later, you know, the advice that you would maybe give somebody to help them, you know, become a champion?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I remember before overtime of Game 6 thinking to myself, of all those great players that I played with throughout my career in Philadelphia, guys like Jeremy Roenick come to mind, John LeClair. John LeClair won one with Montreal. Sorry, Jeremy Roenick comes to mind for sure. Played his whole career, scores 500 goals, you know. Great American-born hockey player, plays in the Olympics, all that stuff. Never had a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And he went to one pretty early in his career. Now, I just wanted to realize that we're that close. We're one shot away from winning the Stanley Cup. This is the moment that we got to capitalize on. But I just wanted to say a few things and picking up off what Kaner said, how everybody did have a big moment. There's a guy that's not on the call right now, Ben Eager, who I think of, you know, played a big role for us in a lot of different reasons. He scored a huge goal in the Stanley Cup final. Game 2 turned out to be the winner. But he was also just a hilarious guy to be around every single day. It was something new with Ben Eager. He'd make you laugh. He kept you on your toes. And he had a certain style of play that kept other teams aware of when he was on the ice as well. But it's the 2010 group that just kind of cared about each other on and off the ice and got to hang out with each other a lot. I mean, we had a couple fathers trips together. You know, you get to know guys like Christopher Steeg's father, who stands out for me. You know, Dunks and Siege boys' parents, got to know them well over the years. All the Kaner's buddies that were hanging around back in 2010, I think we all became friends with them. But at the end of the day, we were just a bunch of hockey guys that wanted to be great individually, wanted to have a great team. And it was a perfect storm of everything. Special to be a part of that team.
Hey, Dunk, the depth of that team seems to be the narrative here with everybody talking on that team. Had to be pretty comfortable to know that regardless of what the situation was night in and night out, you guys were able to handle it, even though you did have some experience, obviously, with a guy like Haas, but you didn't have a lot of that winning experience of going back to 2010 that you guys can really play any way you wanted.
Yeah, for sure. I think I look back at that team and, you know, the amount of we were just like we've been saying, the depth on the team. You know, you had guys end up going to different organizations and starring and being captains and, you know, top players. So I think that, you know, had that team been able to stay together, I think it's too bad, because I think the following year or the year after, we would have been able to really, I think, you know, show what we could do with confidence, knowing that we'd won before, where I don't think we really had the confidence that obviously we hadn't won. So, you know, if we would have been able to stick together, it would have been a pretty mean machine to deal with there, on top of, you know, we were a confident group as it was, but, you know, can you just imagine the confidence that we would have had as a group had we been able to stick together with a championship under our belt already. So I guess it's always easy to look back and think what could have happened, but you know, you look at the depth, and it's I think the biggest reason why we were able to win. It was a 2-year kind of team in the making. The year before, we went and lost to Detroit in the Western Conference Finals, and it was kind of carried over. And you know, that celebration, it was I think a lot of it was just the fact that we knew kind of in the back of our minds that, you know, we weren't going to be able to keep everybody around, and the team was going to get broken up because of the cap. So I think that there was some subconscious stuff going on there, knowing that, you know, we want to do it for each other. That's how close we were.
Hey, Siebes, I asked a question about the advice for younger hockey players, and now you being a elder statesman on this Blackhawk team. Is there anything that you would share with young players coming into the league now and helping them along to aspire what you've been able to do in 3 Stanley Cups?
I think Sharpie touched on it a little bit. I think you know, when you have that opportunity to do it, to take a run and all that kind of stuff. If you're a young kid, you can't take that for granted. I mean, we were pretty successful there in Chicago, but we lost the year before in 2009. And I think as young kids, then I think we thought that, we'd be back. And we were, but that doesn't always happen for a lot of guys. So, I think that the group we had, we all grew up together. We all came in together. We all had a lot of fun. We were close. I think everybody's really touched on the success that we had on that team with the depth and everything. But, we had fun. We were a tight group. And we just enjoyed being around each other.
Well, guys, we really appreciate you all jumping on. Here's to the next time we do this. Hopefully it'll all be in person. Hopefully we can do this for the 20-year and the 25-year anniversary. And hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing each other. We certainly enjoyed seeing all of you. And I know all the Blackhawk fans out there are very appreciative of all of you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule and sharing your recollection of the 2010 Stanley Cup champion of your team, the Chicago Blackhawks. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. We'd like to say thanks to all the great Blackhawk fans and hockey fans watching out there. And we want everybody to stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to seeing everybody on the ice really soon. So thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate it.